I think they may have heard you open that.
Oh,
Kellen.
they heard me open
I'm
my,
not
my
sure.
can.
I'm not sure if the live kicked in just before or just after that can opening, but that may be the opening of the show.
That would be a very interesting ASMR moment of just this crisp.
It was good. It sounded great. It was a good one.
Thank you. I opened it with force. I did not. I realized I was like, oh shit! I gotta open my my seltzer water, my virgin seltzer water. And I didn't want to do that on camera as I was opening, getting caught drinking something again. So I realized I had to do that with force. Hello, Brad. Hello.
Hi. How you doing, Kellen?
You know, Brad, I'm doing well today. I'm doing well. It's been a hectic. I think is the word I'm gonna use. Hectic week. The world is on fire, Brad. Are you aware of this?
I have heard about this. Yes, I tend to spend a lot of time in the basement just hiding from humanity, but I have heard, through various social media outlets from people that the world is in fact on fire currently.
Yeah.
In some places, kind of literally.
Literally on fire, yes. It's kind of uncomfortable. Chicago has not been one of these places that's on fire. It is going to get pretty warm this weekend. But I think about my friends on the West Coast where it's like I talk to my mom. My mom lives in Portland, Oregon. It was 114 degrees there.
Yeesh.
Too hot.
That's way too hot.
It's way too hot. Way too hot. The fact that Washington in like the last 100 years has had 3 days where the heat has been over 100 degrees. And in a week, there were 4 days in a row where it was over 100 degrees. Like the world is on fire. The world is absolutely on fire.
That's chaos. That's crazy. And Carrie, before we go too far.
Oh, right. Yes.
I have Mitra to thank for this lovely shirt that finally showed up.
And I have a similar shirt, but I didn't realize we were wearing our merch tonight. So
I just got it the other day, so I had to wear it.
Shirt.
It is. It's pretty comfy. It's good.
Brad, I've thought about something.
You have, okay.
I'm going to pitch you an idea. Every week, I drink my apple juice right here.
Sure, your apple juice.
My apple juice.
Sure.
I thought to myself, Brad, you know enough about whiskey. I would imagine you have to know some distilleries that probably have just stuff sitting around. Throw a Brad and Kellen label on that. We could sell at least a case, right?
I mean, very possibly, sure.
Right? What do you think our whiskey, or what do you think? Would it be a whiskey? Would it be a blend? What if we were selling a distilled spirit? What do you think that had our names and our branded content on there? What would that be?
I don't know. That's tough. I mean, just personal bias, I would go with whiskey probably.
Well, again, that's the thing, Brad.
I don't know.
It's us.
Yeah, that's tricky. You know, it would be very cool and is starting to become a thing, so might be legally possible, is to do like a pre-canned Dr. Pepper and whiskey.
Oh,
mix.
Yes.
Like they're starting to do like those like soda and alcohol, pre-mixed or like old-fashioned things. Like there's all kinds of weird things, but like that's a thing that's starting to happen.
I mean, the fact that again, our friend Mitra found like icy, like frozen popsicles that were boozy frozen popsicles. Like if you can put booze in a popsicle and freeze it and sell it, why can't you do that with soda?
Yeah, like if I could just get a can
that
had Dr. Pepper, and have whiskey or whatever proportions we want to deal with, that would be excellent for me.
It'd be fantastic. So the world's on fire and we're trying to sell merch. So, it's late stage capitalism.
We're not actually selling this merch.
No, I know. It's a gift. You actually have to go to Mitra to buy our merch.
Trademark law is very strange. Would we now have to license it from Mitra because she made physical merch?
Well, no, because it's your graphic, though. That's the thing. It's your graphic.
But it's not. It's not trademarked or anything. It's just fonts that I don't own. Like they're just free fonts. But it would be hard to trademark just 2 different fonts. I don't know.
She didn't. Again, this is no offense to Mitra. She didn't create a new font or a new thing. She just took stuff that you had created, and she put it on a T-shirt. So,
Sure.
I mean, I mean, Brad, I guess it's like one of those things where you could say, let's say there was,
Not yet.
I was about to say, like, Harry literally took the things. Let's say,
Also, really, like, this needs to say, talking about T-shirts with Brad and Kellen, and the leggings would be talking about leggings with Brad and
Kellen, see, this
like
is
everything. The Spaceballs
exactly
philosophy.
Exactly.
And I'm fuzzy.
I was going to say, you got a little fuzzy there. Your camera's a little drunk.
Why am I fuzzy? My camera is drunk.
It's a little drunk. It's very
strange. I can fix that.
You can fix that. We'll vamp for a second. I mean, I don't know about you, Brad. I don't necessarily want to see my face on a pair of leggings.
That would be weird.
It'd be weird. It would be very, very strange. You have to be a unique person to want to do that, I think. I think you have to be, I don't know. You have to be a very unique individual to want to do that. So Brad's trying to figure out why.
This camera is super, super drunk.
Camera doesn't know what to do.
There we go.
There it is. Crisp, delicious Brad.
See, that seems more like an OnlyFans than a merch situation to me, but I don't know. I'm not the marketing expert. So.
Yes. Again, if Mitra was to own a trademark, it probably would. This is the sort of espionage that she and BJ would participate in terms of creating merch for another show, trademarking it, and then we have to pay her to sell the merch. That is exactly who Mitra is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it would not surprise me that much.
No.
If she applied for the trademark.
This is how the Persians took over most of the world, right? She's just living her ethnic heritage.
Makes sense.
Brad, how are you this week?
I am good. I'm older now than I was last week, so that's a whole thing.
I didn't get to really talk to you at all this weekend. I was vacuuming water out of my basement. How was your birthday?
I mean, it was better than that.
but Brad, I was doing it in celebration of you. That's why I was doing it. That's why I let my basement get flooded. I said, you know what? I'm going to do this for Brad.
It's weird. That's a weird thing. But I mean, thanks, I guess. It's the thought that counts. So
is that not what you wanted for your birthday?
It's fine. No, that sounds good with me. No,
man, I think I messed up.
It was just video games and whiskey and relaxing at home. I mean,
video games with a kid or video games for yourself?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Video games with the kid until he was sleeping.
Yes.
Way too much cake. A fair amount of whiskey. It was a good time.
Brad, tell me about the cake. What sort of cake did you get?
It was it's called Ladyfingers.
Ladyfingers.
It's like basically a stack of ladyfingers covered in chocolate and icing and stuff. I don't know what the heck you call the cake version of that.
Your wife makes some gourmet shit. Like I've seen her.
It was from Costco in this case.
Well,
yes,
your wife knows how to buy some gourmet shit.
She makes very strange and wonderful things. Sometimes.
Yes, as we saw in that video.
Yes. Usually more like southerny things. Than desserts, but
she's making like fried okra and hush puppies and other good stuff like that.
And just like biscuits and gravy sort of stuff. Yeah.
Tasty. Lots of whiskey, video games.
Whiskey, video game.
That's good.
I mean, it was a normal sort of weekend for me.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but with slightly less kid wrangling because my wife handled that a little bit more to give me.
It's very, very sweet of her.
A bit of a break.
Brad, is there a thing that you usually do for your birthday? How do you feel about birthdays?
I don't really care one way or the other. Just a regular day for the most part.
Mm-hmm. You just got to be a little bit more drunk that day. That's basically it. Nice.
And Facebook notifications were a little bit more annoying than usual, as everyone in my past has a reminder that it's my birthday.
So one reason I'm happy I'm not on Facebook is that whole love bomb experience is so stressful. So stressful.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, that's good.
That's good. Did you have a question for me? Do we want to jump into? Are you going to pull pull a guest on me all
I'm
of a
not
sudden?
going to pull a guest on you like I did last week. But that was fun.
Last night was amazing. I would love to have Carolyn come back in a
Love
couple
you.
of, like, maybe a month after we've all watched a show together. Because I realized, again, I heard
That
this
would be
from
great.
multiple people. That was so fun for us. And I'm sure for people watching, they were like, wow. Because Carol and I are just like, I'm so starstruck. And we're just talking and talking and talking. There wasn't a lot of like us bringing the audience along with us. It was so inside baseball, but it's
Sure.
anime. That's what it is, right? If you don't know, I can't tell you about why you should be watching Gundam. You just gotta watch it and you'll understand.
Sure. But yeah, we'll have to get her back.
We'll
sure.
definitely have to bring her back. Yes, the same way we'll have to bring back Mitra and BJ.
Yes.
And I think we should get Hannah on for a sex episode. Talk nothing about sex.
I'm sure she would be down for that.
Oh, she would be very down for it.
That would be a
Very,
fun
very down
one.
for it. Yeah.
To use the explicit tag on YouTube and everything. That'd be great.
Nice.
Yeah, Kellen.
Brad.
So we've been doing this like 6 months.
So don't fucking no. No, we
Yes.
haven't. Have we?
Yes.
Have
Because
we?
one of the first episodes, we talked about the yearly U.S. spending budget bill.
Yeah.
And if you remember, one of the things in that bill was a stipulation that within 180 days, the government had to release a certain set of documents.
Yes. Yes, Brad.
And
Yes.
that day
Mm-hmm.
was earlier this week.
Yes. Yes.
They released it on day 179.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a 9-page report
Mm-hmm.
about unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yes.
And it's exactly as boring as I said that I expected it would be.
It's
back
such a letdown. I read it and it's such a letdown. There's nothing. It's just like, well, we can't confirm that they're aliens, but we can't deny that they're aliens.
Right? It was like 140 events or something,
Yeah.
something like that, in the 100 range anyway. And one event, they had a conclusive thing like, we know what that thing is.
Mm-hmm.
It was a balloon. It was deflating and just
Yeah.
sort of whipping around. Everything else, I don't know.
I don't know. Boy, Brad, 6 months. 6 months.
6 months to get 9 pages of just like,
Eh.
yeah, I mean, we didn't know what it was. Like, what do you want from us? We still don't know what it is.
Still don't know. That's a bummer, man. It's an absolute bummer. But I mean, what are you going to expect, right? I mean, the U.S. government is I'm just so upset at our government in general these days. It doesn't feel like we can get anything done. And now we're talking about blowing up the filibuster, and people are going to be upset about that. And that's going to be the whole next 2 or 3 months of our lives because we can't agree on something. Oh, boy.
Sure.
What's the point of living in a republic if you can't have the majority of people who are in that republic say, hey, let's do this stuff? Try not to get on my soapbox.
That would be nice. You can get on a soapbox. It's okay.
I'm just upset. I'm just upset that we have like this weird deadlock. I'm upset that we can't come up with things, but like that's just the political system right now. That's just the way it is. That's the way that the people who have been in power have set it up so that they can, grind everything to a halt when they want to, and then when they want to turn the floodgates on, they'll just let it go. So it's disappointing. It's an easy way to get people to get apathetic about government. So, and politics,
Yeah,
which is a bummer.
government is terrible.
Kind of is.
It's the problem with fandoms, Politicians are really just fans of politics, right? So
Yes.
it's just a political fandom, and fandoms are terrible. So.
Mm-hmm. The worst. Brad, I've got some questions here for you. If you,
sure.
Brad, I was telling you before we got here, my child was playing a video game today. It was Paper Mario and the Origami Prince. I don't know if you played it. It's a fun little game.
Played it.
Yes. One of the characters in that game that my son is very fond of sacrificed their life for Paper Mario.
Sure.
Spoilers. My son cried like a family member died. My
Yikes.
son was so moved. My son, and again, he cried, He thought he was over it. He cried again. He thought he was over it. He went to sleep. And right before I came on, I went upstairs to his room and he's crying and he just can't believe that this character is dead. Brad, has there ever been a death in a piece of media, in a movie, a book, a TV show, a video game that has moved you? And I know your heart is made of wires and gears and geometric squares. I don't know how it works, right? But have you ever been moved to run a program called Sadness?
I mean, I've come close for sure.
Let's hear
it. In Gone in 60 Seconds, when they crushed that GT500, that got me. That's that counts. I don't know.
That counts. No.
The first couple of minutes of Up, that's a rough one.
That comes close. Can we talk about the first couple of minutes of Up?
Sure.
I feel like it's so manipulative. I feel like the first I struggle with it because it's really sweet and it is really sad and it just feels so manipulative. And Up, I struggle with Up so much because of that, because I'm like, is this earned? Have they earned this? This doesn't feel earned. Like, I understand that we're setting this up as this old man, but like, imagine if Up didn't start that way and then in the middle of the movie we find that out about him. It'd be even more powerful.
It would be. It was like a flashback sequence. Yeah,
he finally has to deal with it. He tells the little boy about this.
Why the hell are you so cranky anyway? Well, let me tell you the story.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that. That would have been a harder sort of psychological punch.
Yeah. I mean, it's Pixar. I know why they did it. They want to bring the house down.
But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't happen very often. I'll tell you that. It does. Stuff like that doesn't generally get a huge reaction out of me. I don't know. Just the fact that I know that it's fictional sort of separates it out from any connection to emotion.
Okay. Have you ever had any big emotions from watching a movie or a TV show or reading a book? Have you ever had a moment where you just got to walk away from it? Like either via anger or frustration or sadness,
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. I know there are people who feel that way about like, the end of the end of the first season of Game of Thrones with Ned, Walking Dead, stuff with Lost. There's plenty of other shows that have gotten rid of characters, and then people just can't handle it.
Yeah, I don't know. Not really. I don't tend to get a lot of emotions of any direction.
I know, Brad. I wrote this question down and I was like, I bet he's not going to have an answer for it, but it's still worth
the
asking.
Closest, maybe the closest I get would probably be watching Sense8. Have you ever watched the series? I've never watched
Sense8. No.
So it's made by at least one of the Wachowskis.
Yes.
Maybe both. I'm not sure.
I believe it is.
At least one of them.
Yeah.
And it's almost all of the sort of tension and catharsis is emotional. Great. Instead of being action. But a lot of people die. There's a lot of action. Mm-hmm. But the actual tension is often extremely emotional rather than sort of action suspense based. Mm-hmm. And so they do a very good job, I think, anyway, being a sort of weirdly unemotional person. I don't know. But I think they do a very good job of sort of building that emotional tension and then giving it like real emotional catharsis to the point like, oh, I can actually like tell what that emotion is and I can feel like the connection there, where I don't usually get much of a connection like that emotionally with fiction.
Just because it's fiction. Because it's fiction.
I think a lot of it is just because it's fiction. And so it just sort of sits in a completely separate part of my brain. Like I can't.
Which leads me, I guess, to wonder, it's like, so if you know that it's just like, I know this is fiction, so I know it's not real. Like, what is the draw of fiction for you then? Like, if you're not able to relate it to the emotion of it, is the draw like the intellectual aspect of the fiction? Like I'm trying to think about like a fictional show that you really enjoy. Like what's the, if it's not an emotional draw, what is the thing that draws you to fiction then?
Like studying characters in fiction helps me understand how to deal with humanity. Even though it's not the same, like it's very clear. I mean, sometimes it's closer than other times, depending on the sort of fiction, I guess. But it's like studying for human school. In a lot of ways.
Okay.
And I mean, sometimes it's just dumb fun because I get high and I watch stupid 80s movies, right? Like there's different levels of it.
Yes. But okay.
But there's a lot of that. And that's how it started. When I used to watch TV and movies, and so it sort of become a weirdly nostalgic thing to like study how characters do things.
Totally.
That's why I noticed things like Iron Man being his superpower being UI design in Avengers, instead of like thinking about the action stuff. I'm thinking like the first reaction he has is based on this like weird intellectual thing that he does that is never really discussed explicitly, but like that's his main thing that he does, but it's always like background stuff. So I just like, I don't know, it's so weird. It's human school basically.
Human school. I love it. Oh, that's good.
How about you? Are you big
I've got
emotion?
I'm huge. I'm the exact opposite. Like I'll watch a fucking commercial and I'll start crying, right? I infer so much emotion from media. I can look at a painting, I can hear a song, I can read a book, I can watch a TV show, but it has to be earned, right? There has to be something earned about it. And that's the thing that I struggle with as an artist who's created both shows on stage and done pilots and worked on movies. Like it's you're creating this larger world, and when it's not earned, when you're doing something to manipulate the audience without intention, right? Like if you're intentionally trying to manipulate the audience and they're aware of it, then there can be like, that's why horror movies are so good, right? The horror movies are like, we're trying to make you scared. The reason we're doing this is we're trying to elicit fear. We're trying to elicit that. And horror movies are really good at that. And I like that, right? I struggle a little bit with horror movies that are just trying to be like, shock for shock value. Right. There are movies that can be shocking without necessarily, being sort of trite. There are lots and lots of movies that are just sort of gore porn. And, if the gore is really good looking, then it's fun, right? Like if it's really good, but then there's gore porn that's like not really even good looking, and you're like, well, you didn't even like commit to the aesthetics, so it's not really very good, right?
Right. What if it's like stupidly over the top?
Oh, so good, right? That's what
like
trauma
four
movies are
people
so
worth of blood just shoots out of somebody randomly.
So good, so good. But I think horror is a really good example of like how you can manipulate an audience into an emotion, but the audience is aware of it. It's the same thing with watching a romantic movie, right? Like people go into watching a love story and they're interested, right? They're going in to experience something. They're open to that experience. People are going into a political drama. They're looking for the tension and they're looking for the good guys to win, right? They're watching a fantasy, whether it's high fantasy or sci-fi or something like Sense8, where it's something sort of modern and current. You're looking for a blend of love and suspense and good over evil. You're looking for all it's man versus society, man versus God, man versus nature. You're looking for all these sort of typical archetypes of how stories are being told. And the good stories, the stories that last with us forever, are the ones that do it in a way that don't feel like it's being manipulated, right? I think the ones that do it poorly are the ones that are kind of doing it in weird tropes that are not really listening to the audience. They're just trying to get to that emotion without necessarily earning it. Hence the reason why I think the beginning of Up is sort of problematic, because it is intentionally trying to set you up to feel this big feeling, and then the rest of the movie happens. I had a theory about Up for a while where I think they made Up and it doesn't have the opening. And I think a lot of people watched that movie and they were like, it's okay. Like Up is, I think it's like a C-level Pixar movie. Sure. But that opening makes it a B, if not an A-level movie, because you get so invested in this character and you remember all those things. But without that opening, if you just watch Up, it's kind of like an okay movie. But that opening totally makes you emotionally invested in who this character is. Makes you sad, hits you right in the heart. So I will play a video game or I'll read a book and I will sit there. And I was trying to explain this to Dennis. I was explaining a book that I read a while ago called Norwegian Wood, written by one of my favorite authors, Haruki Murakami. And the book starts out in a really beautiful sort of way. He's an author who doesn't really like romance novels. And then somebody challenged him to say, well, if you don't like romance novels, write a romance novel you would enjoy. And he's like, all right, I will. And the book starts out in the sense of here is a man who is in his late 50s and he's remembering a time in his life where he was happy. And he's on an airplane and he's just remembering this time. And he's remembering the snow. And then it's these kind of series of flashbacks to an experience he had with this woman that he fell in love with. But the book starts, and this is not a spoiler because it's like literally 10 pages in. The book starts with him being like, yeah, it's a bummer that she died. And then he flashes back to her death. And then it's like, well, I don't know where this romance is going to go. We already know that he ends up sad. We know he's alone. And we know the person he loves the most in his world is dead. There's 300 pages left. What is this book going to be? And I was sort of explaining this idea of like when a character dies, you know, you're challenged with your own mortality. You're wondering what's sort of going on. And again, it's the exact opposite of you. I'm just like relating to, I'm just so, you know, projecting my own needs and myself into these characters. What would that be for me? It's hard for me not to, when it's done right, at least. So, yeah. It's a long way of saying I like feelings.
I don't mind them. They just don't get very intense all that often.
Oh, that's good. That's good, Brad. You got a question for me, Brad?
I sure do. Oh, he's just actually after that, maybe we'll skip that one just for now. We'll go for something a little lighter. Which fictional villain, Kellen, would you say is your favorite?
I love Vader. I think Vader's a great villain. Who are some other villains that I enjoy? Fictional villains. It's tough. There are some villains that I really enjoy in comic books that I like because of what they do to the heroes, right? Like I think about two of my favorite villains are Bullseye and Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash is, as you can tell, the opposite of the Flash. And the Reverse Flash is a character who has come, who is, and I'm going to try not to get too into the weeds here for a second here, explaining how the Flash works. But the Flash can move because of the Speed Force, and the Speed Force allows him to move through time and space very, very quickly. There is a character called the Reverse Flash who can also do the same thing, but he's from the future. And so what he has decided to do is to come back, and he loves the Flash the most. And so he's decided to come back from the future and make the Flash a better hero, because he thinks that the Flash is in fact better than Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman or anybody else. And so what does he do? He kills the Flash's wife and children.
So helpful.
So helpful. So helpful.
You know, get him on the right path to being a
because
hero.
He wants the Flash to be a better hero. And because what does he see? He sees that Superman is the last son of Krypton, right? He doesn't. He knows because of the future who Batman is, so he knows that Batman's parents aren't real. He knows that Wonder Woman loses her parents, so it's like, great. That's what the Flash needs. The Flash needs loss. That's what makes a good character, right?
Right.
And that's
Wonderful.
terrible, right? I'm like, that's such an interesting way of like what makes the villain to say, no, I'm not a bad guy. I'm trying to help you, right? I mean, that's what makes the Joker such an interesting character. That's what makes so many good.
Speaking of,
yes, Hannah, of course, you know,
not surprised.
not surprised at all, not surprised at all. But that's what I think a good villain is. You know, is someone who is intent in their beliefs, right? They're not like a mustache twirler. They're like, ha ha ha, I'll get you next time, Gadget. You know, they're oh gosh, like Negan. Negan's a fantastic bad guy, right? Negan sees the world. He understands what the world is. He is not a bad guy in his own mind. He is right. He is justified in what he does and what he believes. He's a fantastic bad guy. Fantastic bad guy. And there is a sense in Negan. Again, we don't want to honor him. He is still a brutal and violent character, right? He is still someone who is evil in the sense of what he is doing. But in a world where there is no morality, in a world where everything's broken, what is Negan doing? He's in control, right? You know, and there's something, and I'm going to say this, Brad, I'm going to say this as a queer man. There's something very sexy about that. There's something very sexy about in the world being dead, the world being broken down that way. I mean, Negan in general is a very sexy character in terms of the bat and the leather and the slick back hair, the rest of that.
Sure, there's a bit of an aesthetic.
There's an aesthetic
going through.
There's an aesthetic. Please. Like, and I think there is something about that confidence and the rest of that again, the same thing about any of these characters, whether it be, you know, Vader or the Joker or the Reverse Flash or Bullseye, which I'll get to Bullseye in a second. These are all people and characters, and I'm noticing that all these are men, so I have to figure out if there's a female character that I like as well. I'll get to that in a second. But these are all people who believe what they're doing is the right thing, right? Like, you know, I don't think the Penguin is a good bad guy, because I don't think the Penguin, I mean, the Penguin's just a thug, right? They're just a mob character.
What about Poison Ivy?
Poison Ivy is interesting that way.
Good intentions-ish.
But again, I mean, Poison Ivy, I think the issue with Poison Ivy is less about the character, it's more about the writing, right? I think there's been, Paul Dini's the only writer who's ever gotten Poison Ivy right, because most of the time Poison Ivy is wrapped up in other shit, as opposed to Poison Ivy being a environmental freedom fighter. Right, like when I read
to an extreme,
right?
Yeah.
Like what I love about Poison Ivy is I grew up with kids. And I mean this is not me exaggerating. I grew up with kids who became domestic terrorists in the sense where they started working for the ALF and the ELF. I grew up with kids in Oregon who decided to, in high school, drop out of high school to go build bombs so they could go blow up car lots and start blowing up places where cars are being sold.
Dealership?
Yeah, car dealerships. There we are. There's the word. English is a very complicated language.
Yeah.
But this is what they wanted to do with their lives. They wanted to become environmental terrorists because they saw the world falling apart. That's who Poison Ivy is. And if I saw a Poison Ivy story or a movie where Poison Ivy was like, I don't want to rob a fucking bank. You know what I want to do? I want to flatten Gotham City to the ground, and I'm going to let this garden sort of grow. Like, that's the Poison Ivy thing I think is really, really great. But I don't think, I still think that Poison Ivy could go, it's not that I'm not an environmentalist, but there is an element of, it's not human, right? She's not connected to us, as opposed to Vader or the Joker is still human, right? Poison Ivy seems to be more of nature, and it's harder to relate to her and her wants and her needs that way, right?
Sure.
Yeah, man.
Now, what about the worst or the best terrible 80s movie villain of all time? Daniel LaRusso of The Karate Kid.
Well, I think Daniel LaRusso, again, as we can see with Cobra Kai, was misunderstood, right? And that's the reality of The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid is a movie all about privilege, and that's what's so good about Cobra Kai. Is Cobra Kai is really talking about this idea of like, oh, here are these two white kids from the valley who appropriate a tradition from another country, make it about themselves so that they can take each other down. Like Daniel Russo is not a bad guy. He's just caught up in a system, and he's just a kid who's trying to make other people happy, right? Yes, absolutely. Do you have a point you're trying to make with that, Brad?
No, I just like torturing people that think Danny is the good guy in that movie, and he's
not the good guy. No. He's definitely not.
Well, I mean, they're all terrible, really.
They're all terrible.
Maybe Mr. Miyagi is like okay, but he also like sort of attacks teenagers.
He attacks teenagers, and also Miyagi is giving. Strange. Miyagi is the one who's selling the his culture, right? Miyagi is the one who's like saying, "Yeah, I'll do this," right?
He also may have superpowers somehow.
Yes, well,
it's not explained very well.
It's not very true. Yeah, I think it's villains are so interesting, Brad. Like,
what about something like that leans very far into the ridiculous nature of villainy, like Dr. Evil, which really has no sort of intention behind it other than just to be evil,
being a trope,
because it's fun.
I mean, I guess even in that sense, Dr. Evil is sort of a pastiche, right? Like Dr. Evil is all of these different things that are sort of happening. The same thing with Austin Powers. Like you have to sort of look at Austin Powers through a lens of history of like what Mike Myers is trying to mock with these sort of things, which is great. But like Dr. Evil sort of exists to be the butt of a joke, so his evilness doesn't really hit as hard. I guess someone who I think is evil for evil would be like Freddy Krueger, right? Like there is an evil character who is evil for the sake of being evil, who's kind of two-dimensional, but because the aesthetic really works and because like the movies are all really fun. But like, do I ever buy who Freddy is? No, Freddy's a nightmare, right? Like that's what's so interesting about Freddy, what's so interesting about Jason, what's so interesting about so many of these characters. Like they're just nightmares. They don't exist. They're not real. But that's also why for me, when I can watch Halloween and still be scared. I can still be scared of Halloween because I think Mike Myers, the way that movie is shot is great. And it just, the sort of like looming sort of ness of Mike Myers is so good. Yeah,
the connection between.
I realize that
Michael Myers and Mike Myers, and it's switching back and forth.
It's a little different
in a very entertaining way.
Very, very nice. It's interesting. Hannah in the chat, exactly.
Like her intentions, at least to her, are pure.
Is Cersei Lannister a villain, though? I don't think she's a villain. I don't think anybody on Game of Thrones is a villain. I think they all are the heroes of their families, right?
That's like almost the same thing as saying they're all villains, though.
But it's not, though, because Game of Thrones is about families. Game of Thrones is a mob story. It's about all of these families who are trying to compete with each other, right? Because you could say the same thing about the Starks. Right? You could say, well, the Starks are villains? They're all villains. They're all heroes. Like it's a bunch of families fighting for turf. That's all it is.
Right. It's a mob war with more dragons.
Exactly. That's really what it is. And they're all wrong, and it all falls apart in the end. And they've all got to work together to become, the biggest, baddest group. And I guess the White Walkers are the cops. I don't know. What are the White Walkers like?
I don't know.
The
metaphor.
That analogy kind of petered out for a second.
The analogy doesn't quite
work.
Do it for me.
I'll tell you a villain that I don't think gets enough credit would be Bowser. I think Bowser's a great villain. I think Bowser from the Mario. What do you? Don't give me that look, Brad. Come on.
Bowser and Dr. Evil are basically in the same category for me. His strategy is always the same.
It's the same, but here's the thing: Dr. Evil at least is aware of that. Bowser's not. Bowser's like,
I guess
I got it this time. Guess what we're gonna do?
I got it. I'll kidnap the princess.
Everybody here, Kamek, come over here. Guess what we're gonna do? I'm gonna steal the princess, and that's it. I'm gonna steal her.
that's
and I got it. Right? And maybe I'm going to marry her. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm finally going to settle down.
Once in a while, there's like, and I'm going to marry her somehow. That's going to work out. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? What's Mario going to do? Come get me? I'm going to put a bunch of pipes and flames here. He's not going to get through here.
Wait, are we going with stars this time? Moons? Gems? What are we doing this time? We'll brainstorm it on the way. Let's go.
It's fine. Look, I'm not a bad guy. I'm going to give him a way to get her back. So misunderstood.
Is Bowser Mario's Reverse Flash?
I think so.
There's a bigger bad guy coming.
There's a bigger bad guy coming.
Bowser is training Mario.
Yes.
And he's clearly not taking the lessons, so it just keeps having to. It's like, no, okay, let's try this again. Okay, we'll try it in space this time.
Yeah.
Okay, this time we're pirates.
Well, I think here's the thing. Here's if we're really going to get into this, I tried to explain this.
King Bowser isn't the bad guy. Things are getting worse.
They are getting worse. But what about this though, Brad? What if Bowser is actually trying to help Mario out? To say, hey, Mario, you keep rescuing this princess, but is she making you happy? Is she, in fact, fulfilling your life? Are you a better person because of her? Or are you simply trying to save her? Maybe Bowser is trying to show Mario how futile it is for Mario to try and save this woman and how she needs to save herself. And Mario needs to just stick to just being Mario.
Sure.
Right? Maybe that's what Bowser's always been trying to do.
Could be.
Could be.
I like this theory, though.
That's an interesting theory. Brad, I got a question for you.
Okay, just one sec. That just okay. I know that it's stupid and that I'm stupid.
You're not stupid
for wanting a real answer, but why a Reverse Flash? He doesn't go super slow. He doesn't go backwards. He doesn't do anything reverse to the Flash, other than the color scheme of his costume.
So there technically are 3 Reverse Flashes, right? There is the Flash.
Help.
And it doesn't help. And that's the Flash, okay? And this is why I'm saying I didn't want to get into the weeds, right? So there's the Reverse Flash who comes from the past, and the reason why he's called the Reverse Flash is the Flash's costume is red and the Reverse Flash's costume is yellow, right?
Totally solid naming convention.
Look, the Flash was created in the 1960s, and Reverse Flash is what they called him, all right? I'm not saying that it was the right thing to do.
That's fair.
I'm just saying that that's what they decided to do, all right?
That's fair.
So they created another character like the Reverse Flash that moves slow. That he moves through time so slowly that it's the opposite of what the Flash does. The Flash can move through time quickly. So this other Reverse Flash moves through it slowly. So he sort of, rather than like going quickly, he, in fact, sort of like he's here for a second and then he's here for another second. So he sort of like goes into the time stream, and I'm not going to get into the time stream. He goes into the time stream and then he comes out of the time stream because he's moving so slow. He can actually go out of time itself and then come someplace else, which is sort of like Ant-Man logic, which doesn't really make sense. So.
Makes total sense. That's fine. I don't know why, but that particular detail has always just irked me.
Yeah. I also talked about Bullseye. The only reason I like Bullseye is kind of like the Joker, where he just wants to hurt someone to hurt someone. Like Bullseye is like Negan. He's just like, no, Matt Murdock likes this person. Great. They're dead. Matt Murdock wants to be in love with Elektra. Guess who I'm going to go kill? Not because I want to kill her or I want to prove anything, just because I want to hurt you. Right? Like there is something that's so personable about Bullseye to be like, no, I'm not going to kill you. No, I would never want to kill you. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to kill the person who you love the most, which I know is going to do more damage to you for the rest of your life, and you'll never get over it because I killed this person. Sure. That's fucking dangerous.
It's very mean.
It's very mean. That's what he's
not a very nice person.
There's no
Seems like kind of a
redemption
bad
story.
guy.
That's what's interesting, though. I think what makes a good villain is they're not redeemable, right? Vader stops becoming a villain because he has his character arc, right? The Joker, kind of depending on what Joker you're looking at, like sometimes that's what I kind of struggle with Harley. Like I think Harley's really great, but there is an element of Harley that I think about, like, does the Joker have a girlfriend, or does that kind of make him human? And is the Joker having a girlfriend humanizing? Is he really the Joker anymore? Like he really should be this sort of like chaotic creature, and the idea of like, yeah, I've got a girlfriend. Like it's sort of like, it's interesting that way.
It's a strange one for sure.
It's a strange one.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt and derail things.
Brad, I've got a very important question for you.
Oh, good.
An extremely important question. I need you to really take this seriously. Brad, what's your favorite type of candy?
My favorite type of candy?
Yeah. Brad, you're sitting at home.
Do you like chocolate bars and stuff count as
absolutely
candy,
they do. Absolutely. It's candy, Brad. You're on the candy aisle. You're at a candy store. You're at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. What's the favorite kind of candy you're going to
Probably like a Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers.
I could always go for a Three Musketeers.
Tell me about a Three Musketeers. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that Three Musketeers is their favorite. What the fuck are you talking about? Three Musketeers?
I don't know why. They're just good. I have no explanations for myself.
I mean, a Three Musketeers is great. It's light, it's fluffy, it's fantastic. Do you know
Frozen?
Oh, a frozen Three Musketeers, absolutely.
Chef's kiss.
Brad, did you know about Three Musketeers and Milky Way? Did you hear this? Like, I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, if it's actually true. I heard this once.
I don't know.
So a Milky Way has 3 layers inside of it.
Sure.
And the Three Musketeers is sort of light and fluffy inside. The thing I heard when I was younger, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, was that when they created the 2 products, that they in fact reversed what the names were going to be. Because again, when you eat a Three Musketeers, it's light and fluffy, and it's supposed to be like the Milky Way. It's supposed to be this light and fluffy thing. And a Three Musketeers is supposed to have 3 different layers inside of it. So
that makes sense.
Boy, I don't know the last time I had a Three Musketeers. I might have to go to a Walgreens tomorrow and get a Three Musketeers and freeze it and have it. Boy,
so good.
So good.
What about you? Favorite candy?
I like gummy bears. I like gummy bears a lot. I like gummy bears. Like if someone says like, "Hey, I'll give you some gummy bears if you do this," I'll be like, "Yeah, I like gummy bears. Gummy bears are great." Like, and gummies in general. I like jelly beans and like Mike and Ike's and other stuff like that. Chocolates are fine, like, you know, but like just give me like a small handful of gummy bears. Ooh, so good.
Chocolate covered coffee beans with that?
Ooh,
because if so, that's the ticket right there. I can't even keep them in the house.
That's a gourmet
because
candy.
They just evaporate somehow. And then I just bounce off the walls for a couple of days. I don't really understand why, and there's no more chocolate covered coffee beans. It's the weirdest thing.
I would consider that a gourmet candy. I would consider that like, you know, when I'm thinking candy, I'm thinking like, you know, you're checking out of the grocery store and what can I throw into the bag and I can eat myself that way. So, yeah. Candy
is good. I usually go for more savory snack things, beef jerky and things like that. So,
tell me about that. Beef jerky. What's the beef jerky situation like in Canada?
All kinds.
Really?
What's
your go-to beef jerky?
So many kinds of beef jerky. I mean, it depends on my mood. What are these stupid ones that I have now? I got a bunch of Jack Link stuff, which is like trash
jerky. Yeah, get the Jack Links out of here.
Just like regular peppered stuff. Their bacon jerky, I'm okay with that. But mostly, I just like the most random, weird, like gas station beef jerky from companies that I don't recognize. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know why I enjoy the process of seeing if a beef jerky is going to be even consumable by the human body.
I love driving through Illinois and through the rest of the middle of this country and going to gas stations that are in the middle of nowhere for beef jerky and for coffee. I like going to random gas stations and seeing what sort of coffee items that they have and being like, okay, there's like, nobody lives around here. This is the only gas station for like 100 miles. So people come here. So what are they doing with coffee? What are they doing with beef jerky? And I love walking to a place where they've got their own coffee stuff set up. So it's not just like canned stuff. Like you actually go and they brew the coffee itself. But then they also have beef jerky in the jars. Like, I love seeing, like, it's like, that's some good shit right there.
Yep, I'm on board with that. Any sort of road trip situation, I'm always just grabbing whatever random beef jerky related things I can get. It's usually terrible, but for some reason I like it anyway.
Yeah. Brad, I think eventually when we all meet up, and we're going to do probably a meetup, I'm imagining somewhere in like Texas, because that'll be the next place, someplace. Or maybe we're going out to Hannah. We're going out to Reno. I hope I didn't out that. I hope I didn't out that Hannah lives in Reno, and suddenly everyone's going to go find Hannah in Reno.
Oh, don't stalk Hannah, everybody.
Don't do that.
The 3 people watching, one of them is Hannah, I think. Don't stalk Hannah.
Brad, what I hope we do is I hope you come through Chicago and we take a road trip across the country and we just eat beef jerky and coffee the whole time. And we live stream it the whole time. It's just
medically dangerous.
Medically dangerous.
And I'm fully on board.
Yes.
That would be amazing.
It would be, right?
I like that idea.
It'd be a very, very good time.
Kellen?
Yes, Brad.
What would be the worst thing to hear as you're going under anesthesia for heart surgery?
Oh, geez. What do you mean an asteroid is crashing into the Earth?
Sure, that would do it. That wouldn't.
Yeah,
be great.
I think that was the first thing. I was like, "What's the worst thing?" It's like something that is unpredictable and also could affect me and millions of other people. That would be the thing. That would be the thing that I would hate to hear right there.
Okay, fair.
What do you mean there's an asteroid crash?
What?
Like that? I was like, what
was that? Just keep counting. That would be pretty rough.
Yeah, I think that would be difficult. And then I wake up. That would be bad. That'd be bad. What about you, Brad? What would like?
I was thinking like, oh shit, 5-second roll. Just as you're just passing it.
I mean, there's plenty of things that I wouldn't want to hear. Like I can't wait to see this guy naked. I wouldn't want to hear that. Or this guy's going to
circumcised or not. Place your bets.
Or this guy's going to make us so much money on the black market. Like these are things I wouldn't want to hear. There's plenty of things I wouldn't want to hear. Yeah, that's no thanks. Do you have any issues with going under? Do you have like problems with anesthesia or anything like that, Brad?
No, I've been under probably too many times at this point.
Yeah. At this point, anesthesia doesn't bother me.
It's never been an issue.
Never been an issue for you. Okay. Brad, speaking of anesthesia and you having a lot of anesthesia, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
I think we've had this discussion. I wanted to be retired.
No, okay, but like, I get that, but like, did you ever? We have had that discussion, but did you ever want to be like an astronaut or like when you were a kid? No, nothing. You were just like.
I mean, for a very short period in junior high, I was thinking, like, is there a way that I could be a hitman and not feel bad about it?
Talk to me about that, Brad.
I couldn't figure out a way to do it, so I didn't.
And not feel bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you saw with being a hitman is okay. Walk me through this, Brad.
Well, I at the time, especially at the time, I was on a fairly heavy dose of lithium, so my already not very emotional self was even less. So.
Even less. Yes.
So I was having a lot of thoughts like, oh, I got to do something. I was finally getting old enough to understand that there's going to have to be some extra steps before retirement, even if that's the goal. So I was like, what could I do? Well, I don't really like I could just be I'm smart. I could figure out how to get away with being a hitman.
Absolutely.
I probably watched like Leon the Professional.
Leon's such a good movie.
That would have been about the right time frame for that. So it's probably influenced by that kind of thing.
Sure. Boondock Saints, any of those other movies, man.
Early '90s sort of things, and I was like, that looks cool. I could do that. Play with weapons, figure out like the puzzle of how to get away with killing somebody. But wait, how do I like figure out what contracts to take and not feel like an asshole afterwards? Oh, this is going to be a problem. And that was much more of a problem to me than like the moral issue of killing people.
Sure. Okay. So the moral issue wasn't the thing that was stopping you. It was the work.
Well, the moral issue of like murder was fine as long as I thought that they deserved it, I guess, at the time. Like I couldn't wrap my head around how I could guarantee that I wouldn't kill someone that I would feel bad about killing afterwards.
Sure. I guess that's the thing that I would feel. It's like, if I was a hitman, I would only take contracts for people who are like, no, this person's a bad guy, right? This person has hurt too many people, and people have decided that they're going to no longer be alive. That's
sort of your Gross Point Blank
exactly
assassin. Gosh, like, let's make sure that the person we're targeting, like, I have these skills already, might as well use them, but let's figure out like the right targets to. And as a kid, I couldn't quite figure out the logistics of how I could verify that to my satisfaction.
There you go.
So I didn't really pursue it.
It's tough, Brad. It's tough. I mean,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it here on the record on the internet.
Brad, did you get a second can?
I don't know what you're talking about. I was wondering how long it would take. It took you an hour. I've been switching back and forth.
I was going to say, I thought about it. I was like, I didn't want to say it at first. I saw it initially. I was like, that's a different can. That's definitely a different can. I appreciate that, Brad. It's wonderful. Wonderful.
So yeah, I don't know. I had moral issues with it, but it wasn't the killing.
It wasn't the killing part. It was. Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't really think I ever thought like, this is what I'll be when I grow up. I just sort of got through high school and then did some college, and that didn't work out. And then I just started bouncing around whatever entry-level jobs would take me, and ended up in sort of the tech startup culture, because it was much more about how fast can you figure out how to do whatever we need to do, as opposed to what pieces of paper have you paid to have access to. And so, that sort of worked to churn through that for a while. And then Shopify happened, so I lucked out.
You're very lucky, Brad. Brad, do you want to take a quiz real quick?
Sure, I'll take a quiz.
Let's take a quick quiz. Just a normal, quick quiz.
I don't know about a normal quiz.
No, it's a very normal quiz, Brad. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. Brad, what's your favorite position?
Totally normal.
The missionary? You love anal sex? You love oral sex. You love the doggy style.
Wow. Okay. Well, out of those, I guess I would say oral.
Oral. You love the oral sex.
The oral sex.
Do you know how to use most of the sex toys out there? Yes.
I mean, I don't even think I could say what all of the sex toys are. Everything is a sex toy if you're brave enough. That's not.
Brett, what's this sex toy right here? What's this sex toy right here?
Couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you, huh?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those look like butt plugs, but
yeah,
there's an assortment.
I think this is like a cat o' nine tails right here. That's a plug. That's a plug. Yeah. Those are nipple clamps. That's a collar. These are beads.
Yeah, I don't know what that one on the left is.
Yeah, what is this? What is this, Brad?
I do not know.
Huh.
So I would say some of them, I guess.
Some of them. Okay, so some of them. Do you like getting a third person involved in your sex life, Brad?
I mean, sure.
Yes,
I
sure.
would be on board with that. Doesn't happen very
Doesn't
often.
happen very much,
But I
or
would
does
be
it?
down for it.
Okay. Yes, you've done it so many times. Sometimes, especially when you are tired and can't satisfy your partner. Not really.
It's very specific.
Very specific. I have to be honest, Brad. This seems like a strange reason to want to involve a third person.
It's like, I am tired. You deal with it.
You deal with this, all right? Somebody tag me out. Let's get the tag team champion in here and let's do this.
That is a very strange reason, but I mean, it's the only one that's like sometimes. So like that's a weird.
So
we're going with that one.
Yes, we're going with sometimes. Okay.
Worded very strangely.
Brad, do you watch porn to improve your sexual know-how?
I mean, it is a part of human school, I guess. Technically,
it is part of human school. And do you watch porn for human school?
Or the techniques or anything?
Brad, what do you think of porn? Does porn solve something for you? Does porn do something for you?
It can be inspiring. Creativity, yes. I guess, sometimes. I would say yes, but just to stimulate.
Yes, but
not just really for the know-how.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Brad. I'm enjoying the introduction of sort of the porn GIF, right? Because I don't want the whole thing. What I want is I just want that little piece, right? And I like the I like the porn GIF because what it does is it says, this could be interesting. This is a fun little moment.
A little bit of visual stimuli, but not. You're certainly not studying the techniques or anything.
No,
because it's very fictionalized.
Very fictionalized.
It's not going to work out if you're studying porn for technique suggestions or anything.
Yeah.
Like
do you consider yourself a sex addict? Why? Brian, are you a sex addict?
I wouldn't say that I'm a sex addict. I enjoy it. It's a good time.
It's a good time.
But wait, maybe because you love having other people involved too. I mean, yes, but what? This is a very strangely worded quiz, Cal.
It's a strangely worded quiz, right, Brad?
I guess I'll go with not really, but I don't know how to deal with the strangeness of the wording of these quizzes.
So let's break it down then, Brad. So not with the answers. Let's just me and you right now. Are you a sex addict? Are you addicted? And I mean addicted in the sense where other things in your life are falling apart because of your.
That's where I would say that I'm not a sex addict because it's not really a thing that's deteriorating any other parts of my life.
Right? Yeah. You enjoy sex, but maybe, look at this one. Is your partner jealous when you talk to other people? Why?
When I talk to other people?
When you talk to other people?
No, generally not. Most people are not my wife. So I end up talking to a lot of people who are not my wife. So I would say no, not at all.
No, I mean, Brad, I'm happy that you're not telling me that oh, my wife watches the show and my wife loves that we do this show right here. And then I get done with the show and we go have sex. If that was what your foreplay was talking to me, I'd be very happy to be involved in this sexual relationship. I would just want to be a consenting adult in this situation.
We just go to your TikTok for that kind of.
There you go. There you go. Is sex the most important thing in your relationship, Brad?
No, I would say no.
No. What's the most important thing in your relationship, Brad?
My wife's ability to prove me wrong.
Oh, Brad. There you go.
But prove me wrong, not just accuse me of being wrong.
No, prove. She has documentation.
Yeah.
She's got a bibliography. She said to her sources, you're wrong. Brad, how often do you have sex?
That really depends on the time because we do have a 5-year-old. So
we do have a 5-year-old.
Consistent in the least.
So imagine the 5-year-old intersecting in life was not the case. How often would you be having sex?
Probably a couple times a week.
Let's say. How many sexual partners do you have, Brad?
Just the one these days.
Just the one.
I have been married for 13 years, so just the one, pretty much.
Do you think you know how to sexually stimulate your partner?
I would hope that she would have left by now if I didn't. So
maybe there are other things that fulfill her, Brad.
That's true. That's true. I would say yes, Steph.
Yes.
I have had reasonable feedback to that effect, and I don't see any reason why she would lie. So
and Brad, this quiz has been about are you good at sex?
Oh, which good. That's very strange given the questions, but okay.
Yes. You have just what you need when it comes to sex, Brad. It's a little strange. This quiz, right?
Seems like a strange one. Yeah, you said it was a normal quiz.
I did say it was a little normal. You know.
Hey, Hannah, can you have a conversation with my wife about this situation? That'd be real good. So that was a quiz.
That was a quiz.
It was definitely questions.
Those are questions that
some of them made sense.
Some of them were worded in strange ways, like, do you like the anal sex?
Sure. Kellen, I have a slightly sort of putting you on the spot kind of a question.
Okay.
Again, I did rewatch a chunk of the first sort of test episode that we did the other day.
Sure.
Just sort of on a whim in passing while I was doing other things. I had it on in the background because I was trying to figure out when we talked about the UFO stuff.
Yeah.
And in that episode, we talk a lot about playing some D&D.
Yeah.
And it's been 6 months.
It's been 6 months, Brad. Yeah.
So when are we going to play some D&D, Kellen?
You know, Brad, I'm willing to play D&D with you anytime. I think the thing about us playing D&D is it just you and I playing, or do we bring some guests on? Are we going to create a character on the spot, or do you have a pre-made character? Like, I would love to sit and play with you. The thing that I need to know is how deep are we going, and then what sort of D&D experience do you want to have? Just like Brad, if we were going to engage in, let's say, the act of sex, I'm very interested in understanding what you enjoy. And so if we were going to be sitting down and talking about D&D, I would say to you, Brad, how do you feel about role playing? Do you want to be playing as your character, or are you going to be talking as your character, or are you simply going to be speaking in the third person? What would you want to be experiencing that way?
I do enjoy role play. I would very happily embody my character as much as possible.
Okay, that's very, very good to know. Yeah. Great. Brad, what sort of experience are you interested in? Are you interested in like a very high fantasy, very serious D&D experience? Are you more interested in the sort of the Dimension 20, like kind of funny, kind of quirky, kind of like still fantasy, but also like we're trying to get some laughs? Are you interested in sort of like a grim dark, like, no, we're playing it really straight and really serious? And like what's sort of the flavor that you'd be looking for?
I would say probably leaning more towards the Dimension 20 style, like, you know, not exactly always extremely silly, but definitely leaning in silly directions.
Some silly directions.
Seems like an okay thing to happen.
Sure.
Brad, like the most natural way for me and you to play, I think.
Oh, yes. We would have to be a little silly. Yeah. Brad, would you want to just play the two of us, or would you want to bring maybe one or two people along for the ride?
Some people in. I think Hannah seems very excited. She was yelling D&D. She's got her dice.
She's got the dice. She's got the blood speckled dice she got from her brother.
We could get like a person or two in, I imagine, without too much trouble.
Okay. Well, let's do this, Brad. I think we can get a game going, right? I think it'd be very, very easy to set up a night to try and do this. I could create a very, very small one-off campaign for us to play where essentially there would be a very set sort of path. You guys could do what you wanted to that way with a couple of people, and maybe we already have plans what we're going to do next week. So maybe the week or the week of the not next week, but the week after, we could do a little D&D, and we could bring some guests in. My question, though, is, again, and I remember we got some really great feedback about this, is would we want to create the characters then and there and just have an episode where we were just finding who these characters were, or would we want to do that off camera and then the episode starts with you already have your character and you can talk about that character to the audience that way? What would you prefer to do?
Well, I already have most of my character. Yeah,
you got your character.
So, I mean, there's probably some details that need to be filled in.
Sure.
But most of the work is done, at least.
Yes.
So if Hannah or other people were going to be joining us, we could probably do some of that offline just to speed things along for anybody who wanted to watch. But I don't know. Maybe we could put it to a vote if people really
put it to a vote. Figure that out. I got to
that.
figure out what was this character's name again. I gotta remember who this character.
It was Brood something.
Yeah, Brood Brood Lurkin, Lerrkkin. Yes, the
That's
Cobalt Monk. Yes. God, Brood was good. Brood was a really silly.
It's very silly.
Very, very silly.
It'll be fun to play. I have to read up on monks and things though, because I've never played.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I'm sure it'll be great.
It would be very, very fun. That was a very fun first episode. That was a very, very fun first episode.
We'll have to maybe we'll lose the chat if we pull the video over and put it onto the new channel, because that was just like a test that I did on a different channel, which is kind of a pain.
It's all right. It's a 0 episode, right? Like that's the thing, is like maybe that will go on the Patreon eventually.
Do that.
Yeah. So
D&D in a couple of weeks.
D&D in a couple of weeks. Yes.
Excellent.
And once I know who's playing, and once I know, I honestly think it would be better for us to create the characters off episode, because then we can just kind of get right into it and it can be fun. And maybe what we can do is to pick like you, me, Hannah, and if we want some other people to be there as well, we can sort of do sort of like, hey, this is how you roll, this is how you do things. So from a learning standpoint, we can kind of do sort of like a test game, so that on the actual episode itself, people know what they're doing, and it can be a bit more not entertaining, but it's not as much of like, oh, this is how you roll dice and this is how you do this. They would at least know like, oh, cool. Like if Hannah was playing, let's say, a barbarian, right? I want Hannah to play. They sort of have this like manic pixie dream girl barbarian, which is like okay. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's like, all right, cool. Like you are like this young girl who lives out in the woods and lives with a bunch of barbarians, but you're like also a barbarian. And like you like have like little sprites that talk to you, and like you use magic, but you're also this barbarian. I'm just like, oh my God, that would just be amazing.
That sounds fun.
I can imagine Hannah also being a rogue or druid. I mean, I could go through all of our friends and tell them what I think their classes they would play.
I think you should.
I think I really should. I think I should. Who's still in the chat? Do we have anyone else in the chat? Who can I pin?
We've got 2 people in the chat.
That's
Hannah's
fine.
one of them, I think. So
Hannah, there we go. Hannah's all the different people. Hannah could play any of these characters. I don't think Hannah would be a paladin. I don't think Hannah would be a very good paladin. I think Hannah would really struggle with that. Lawful good, difficult for her.
It's tricky.
Very tricky.
But yeah,
very.
Hannah is fully on board. So
I know she's in. She's totally in.
So there we go. A couple weeks. We'll work out the details. But
we'll work out the details.
D&D. It's time. It's been way too long.
It's been way too long. Yes, Brad. It's been way too long. Well, Brad, do you have a question for me? Or no, that was your question. That
was my question. I mean, do you have something? I have a video we could watch if you want.
Let's watch a video, Brad. That sounds fantastic.
All right. Let me just pull up my video.
I love it when we get to watch videos.
All right. Time for a very silly video.
I can't wait to watch.
こんにちは。私はリアルアルティメットパワー研究所の科学者です。今回あなたの愛犬のためだけに大切なメッセージがあります。愛犬家の人はぜひ画面の前に 犬を座らせてください。そして部屋を出て
Have you not seen this?
No.
It's so good.
私は科学者です。どうも。
Anybody out there with a dog, position your dog.
Ginger! Sasha! Duke! Coco! Buster! I'm talking to all the dogs of planet Earth! It's time to get the dogs pumped! Pump, 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 pump. Do you want to go for a ride? Do you want a treat? Do you want to go outside? Do you want a biscuit? Bark, 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 bark.
It is time to fulfill your destiny.
犬たちが興奮しすぎてるTear the house apart. Rip up the couch. Piss on the carpet. Destroy. Destroy. Destroy the world. I call upon you to destroy planet Earth. Pop, 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 pop. 真のアルティメイトパワーだ。
Wow, Brad. No, I am not familiar with that video. I am not familiar with that video at all. Wow. Wow, Brad. You didn't warn me. You didn't warn me what we're going to be watching.
Told you it was a silly one. What have you? From the last things that I shared, were you expecting a normal, calm, sort of just chill video?
I didn't know what I was expecting. Now I got to find something silly. God damn. That was good, Brad. That was really good.
When is this crap not weird? Is that Gary? Come on now. It's always weird. While I have you on the spot with an audience of 3 people, how's the podcast situation?
It's good, man. It's just essentially I'm just trying to still get the latest 2 episodes that we've done kind of that way. The intro right now is very silly. I'm pleased with it.
Excellent.
Here we go. Here's what we're gonna watch, Brad. We're gonna watch something that I don't think a lot of people know about. This is a classic. This is a classic video. You might have seen it. You might have seen it. You might have seen this happen. This is called Boba Fett's Roommate, Brad. Please tell me you have not been sitting here all day. Tell me 3 things you did today.
Seems very familiar.
Yeah. Go ahead. Just name 3 things.
Okay. I woke up.
You can't even name 3 things. You are the laziest person I know.
Dude, you know, I've had kind of a rough month, okay? So just back off.
You know, I've had a pretty rough month, okay? I'm tired of you here, and I'm tired of you mooching off me.
You know what? I'm just trying to get my finances back in line, okay? It's been a real pain ever since the whole Han Solo and Carbonite thing. I had to pay for that. And I didn't even want to use Carbonite. I would have been fine just knocking them out and throwing them in the back. But Jabba needs a wall ornament.
Well, here's an idea. How about you don't hang out or work for a guy named Jabba?
It's the name of a dead person because he got strangled by a galactic princess in a bikini.
What does that even mean?
World I'm from, man, okay? I could tell you a tale or two about where I'm from, but I'm not going to waste your time.
You know, you are a mercenary for hire. You're a mercenary for hire from a family of mercenaries. All right, didn't your father ever teach you anything?
Shut up. You ever mention my dad again?
Oh, man. Sorry, guys. It's obvious you have some father issues.
Yeah, that's father issue. Can I ask you a question? Have you ever been your dad? Have you cloning every single day? So many clones of yourself running around the house. You know if you are actually you?
Of course I haven't had to deal with being my father. Of course I haven't had to deal with being a clone.
So why don't I just jump back into the Sarlacc pit? Because that place was a lot more welcoming than this place. I'll just be digested for 1,000 years. That'll be a lot more enjoyable than having to listen to you yell at me all the time. You know, I never really got that. The whole being digested for 1,000 years. Because I'm not going to live to be 1,000 years. It's kind of a weird punishment. I'm just going to it's like being sentenced to 1,000
It is strange.
I'm going to be long gone before that sentence is met. So, yeah, that's weird.
You have 1 week.
Okay.
A classic,
So
Brad.
Time for cat.
So good.
Oh God, cat massage.
Cat
Is
massage.
another-
We'll
that's a
watch
scary
another one. We'll
That's
watch
a
that.
scary
It's a
one.
very scary video. Yes.
Another classic though,
Yeah.
for different reasons. But
Yeah. Carrie saying, "I can't believe I shared it with the world." Why would I not
So
want to share that
good.
with the world?
So
Right? It's a
good.
good video. It's a good. Both of those actors are very good in that video. Right? So
They
good.
are.
Brad, I can't believe it. We've done it again. We've spent another hour and a half with the world.
Good.
Our podcast, I believe, will be coming out at some point.
Seems statistically likely.
Statistically likely. It's just like I've said many times before. It's about how many episodes we want to have in the can before we're ready to just pull that trigger. So, the only thing I think we need to decide on is a logo. And again, it doesn't have to be good. It could just be a thing. Because trust me, once you hear this intro, you're going to say, "Yep, this is what this podcast is."
Perfect.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it'd be good. But for the people who are here, thank you so much for watching. And people who are watching later on, thank you so much for watching. This is always a blast. It's always a blast talking with you, Brad.
It really always is. Even though some of those quiz questions were very confusing and hurt my brain a little bit, it was a good time.
It was definitely a good quiz. It was just weird.
It was structurally odd.
Yes. To know that was a quiz about are you good at sex when very little of the questions were about sex, except for the first one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very strange. Anyway, good talk.
Yeah, good talk. It's always, Brad.
See you next week. It'll be a good one. And then the week after that, hopefully D&D stuff.
Hopefully D&D, Brad. It'll be really good.
So,
Okay.
see you later.
Bye.